Well, good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Lindsay Monroe, and we are continuing to track some strong storms moving through central Indiana right now. And right now we have a new warning to let you know about. Going to be in effect until 3 o'clock. So the time now is 2:51, and we're going to be dealing with these strong wind gusts embedded with some of these thunderstorms, at least for the next 10 minutes or so. Let's start where this new warning was issued. That was over in parts of Madison County into Delaware County. Now Muncie on the leading edge of the strongest part of this line of storms. And you can see that warning going to be going until 3 o'clock for parts of Henry, Delaware, and Madison counties. Storm is tracking off to the east around 45 miles per hour. And the primary threat that we're watching here is that strong wind gust threat, with some damage reports have already been coming down associated with this line. So Mount Summit, 7 minutes, Mount Pleasant about 8 minutes, and about 10 minutes as you get into the Selma area. And again, this is the radar product that we like to watch to kind of give us an indication of how strong the leading edge line is moving, and the fact that we still have some embedded wind gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour there. This is not a warning, but this is also a secondary strong storm moving through Monroe County. Bloomington getting in on the strongest part of that storm there. We continue to watch. Weather Service not issuing a warning on that, but potentially it could. The tornado watch was extended through 6 a.m. for parts of eastern and southeastern Indiana, so the threat is not over. We will be here keeping you posted through the morning. Let me just pull up the live so I can see comments. Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for following our severe weather coverage on our WTHR Facebook page. And I want to let everyone know of just some new warnings that have just come down from the National Weather Service. These are all going to be because of wind damage. We still have that potential that we could get a few rotating storms, especially in the south and southeastern parts of the state, just because of the general setup and dynamics of the storm system. But the past few warnings that have been issued have been because we've seen some very strong wind gusts embedded within the leading edge of this line of storms that's moving through. So let's get you updated on where this is happening. And just so you know, I am following along in the comment section of our WTHR Facebook page. If you do have any questions, I'm going to be able to, in theory, look at them live and be able to interact with you and get some of those questions answered. Here's the latest from Live Doppler 13 radar. I do want to start off with the extension of the severe thunderstorm warning that was down in Bloomington. We talked about this the last time we spoke, the fact that this was still a strong storm. It had not yet reached severe limits. It has at this point. So it looks like the strongest part of this storm is lifting out of Monroe County, now starting to make its way into Brown County. So we've got just to the south of Martinsville, the potent part of that storm where we could see the potential of the heaviest wind gust located there. So here's the latest on this one. So we go back to our latest from the National Weather Service here. This is going to be an ongoing severe thunderstorm warning until 3:30. So for the next 25 minutes or so, it includes Shelby County, Monroe, Morgan, Johnson, Brown County, and parts of western Bartholomew. Storm is tracking pretty quick off to the east around 60 miles per hour, and that primary threat within this storm in particular is still going to be the threat of some damaging wind gusts. So you can see places like Franklin all throughout Brown County. So we're talking Nashville, some of the more rural parts of our viewing area down where it is quite hilly. That's where we're it's going to be experiencing some of these strong wind gusts here momentarily. Going to get to some of your questions as well. One more quick update here. We do have another new severe thunderstorm warning. This one's for our friends in southern Delaware County, now extended into Randolph County. This one also until 3:30 in the morning because of the potential of some damaging wind gusts there, moving just to the north of Mount Pleasant, where you see some of those purples on the radar. That's typically where we would see also the strongest wind gusts as well as the heaviest rainfall amounts there. Questions about some of you hearing sirens in your neighborhood. And just so you know, every jurisdiction, every county is a little different on why they would sound the tornado sirens. But just know that could also be because of a severe thunderstorm, not necessarily tornado. And none of these storms have been rotating here in central Indiana during the overnight. They've mostly been straight line winds, but keep in mind, you get a 60 to 70 mile per hour straight line wind that comes through with these thunderstorms, and that could do the same amount of damage as a small scale EF0 or EF1 tornado, just as far as the wind speeds go. So treat this as if it could potentially be a rotating storm, although these have all been straight line wind so far. But that doesn't mean we're not seeing the damage reports. We have certainly seen several from throughout central Indiana. We've also had some power outages reported associated with these. In fact, right now we're starting to see some hail reports coming in. This one from Monroe County down on the IU campus. Pea-size hail reports as well as a 50 mile per hour wind gust there. Bloomington Weather Reporting Office, 51 knot, so that's pretty close to 50 mile per hour wind gusts there. We've also had just a lot of trees down, especially from the Monroe County area out of that new storm. And as far as that Delaware County storm, we had a storm report from Ball State's campus of around 59 mile per hour gusts there. So anything over 58 is typically what the National Weather Service would issue a warning for. And it certainly looks like based on those reports that criteria is playing out. We've had some of this strong weather moving through the metro, although we are not in that warning zone right now here in the Indianapolis metro. That's since passed on. And a couple of you also asking questions about your neighborhood and if you are in the clear. I do want to let everybody know that there has been an extension on that tornado watch that was originally set to expire at 3 o'clock in the morning for most of our counties just to the south and to the west of Indianapolis, but that has been extended for places like Morgan, Johnson, and then obviously down into Bloomington, where we have that warning there. So there's the latest on your tornado watch. That's kind of that pink zone that encompasses most of central Indiana. And as far as where we're talking the target zone that's still potentially under the risk of seeing some of these stronger storms, let's go back to our radar and we can do some analysis. I do want to talk about this as well because this is kind of where the Storm Prediction Center is watching the severe risk that's continuing. So here's the radar. Again, that's that severe thunderstorm warning issued for Randolph County. But as we back out here, I do want to kind of take you down to this zone. Here's my tracking tool. Kind of this area here is where we're watching the next batch to potentially move into. Pardon my penmanship here on this radar, but it just kind of goes to show you where this general storm motion is moving from west to east. So I think we had a question up in Kokomo about your severe risk. That has since kind of moved on from Kokomo. You can see you're in the clear there. This is kind of the zone, the line from Muncie down to Greenwood, Franklin, Bloomington that we're still watching for that potential of some of those strong wind gusts. Let's go through some of these questions that you might have here on our Facebook Live as you are joining us. We've got some reports, which is helpful as well, kind of painting the picture of what's going on through central Indiana. We've got some high wind reports from Lacey. I'm not quite sure where she's located, perhaps close to Greenfield. Claire asking about an updated power outage map. You can go to their websites, AES, if you're in the Indianapolis metro. Of course, we're always checking places like Duke's website because they've got power that they supply for most of central Indiana. If you go to their websites, you can definitely click on the outage map and get some of the very updated information from there. A lot of folks kind of out in the country asking about how bad the wind is going to get. Yeah, this is going to be one of those overnight events, and that's why we've been focusing on staying on air and staying weather aware, because this is not a typical, first of all, it's not typical this time of year, but there have been tornadoes reported in central Indiana every month of the year. So because of that, and the fact that it's nocturnal, so this is happening overnight while most of us are sleeping, you hear these strong wind gusts outside of your window. Perhaps you hear the thunder and the lightning and you're wondering what's going on. It's still active out there, although we have really missed out on the worst part of the storm system. Our friends down in Arkansas and Kentucky going to be cleaning up after some very strong tornadoes hit there. For us, it's a damaging wind gust threat at this point. Hannah asking if Marion County is in the clear. We look to be in pretty good shape at this point. Most of this has since moved on. We've got some heavy rain over into Hancock County, but it is not severe. Had some questions about Greenfield. The storm probably sounds pretty bad in your neighborhood, but it is below severe limits. So let's go down to Franklin. This is where I do want to focus on where our warnings remain ongoing. So this is for Morgan, Johnson counties. Inside this kind of leading edge here, Morgantown, Trafalgar, getting in on the heaviest of this. So not only are we dealing with these strong wind gusts, we're also dealing with some very heavy torrential rainfall. When I was coming into the station a couple of hours ago, I noticed a ton of ponding on the sides of roadways. Of course, you mix that with these strong wind gusts and the fact that it's dark and it's hard to see. It's going to make for some pretty tricky travel, even though this is going to move out here momentarily. So let's put a tracker on the leading edge of this as it's moving off to the east around 45 miles per hour or so, using our tracker tool. So we've got a Clifford here heading in your direction in the next 16 minutes, and then Columbus over in Bartholomew County about 17 minutes from now. So that warning is going to be ongoing. Looks like the worst of it's moved out of Bloomington at this point, tracking into Nashville, Indiana now. Leading edge there. I want to pull up another tool that we use. It's called our velocity scanner. You can really get a good sense of how strong the wind gusts are inside of this line of storms. It's pretty good close to the radar. The farther away from the radar you get, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of pinpoint where we've got some of those stronger wind gusts. But I would say right here where you see this red, where you see the reds and the greens coming together, that's where we have a collision of a different wind directions, and that's where we could see some of those strongest wind gusts now tracking through the heart of Brown County as we speak. Jason Greer down in Monroe County reporting that the wind is dying down in Bloomington. That makes complete sense based on the radar. And time of arrival for Greensburg. So you're still pretty far off to the east. I would say at least another hour or so before it moves into the Greensburg area. Take it back to our reflectivity, our radar here. So we've got this ongoing till 3:30. I'm going to stick with you for the most part. especially on our Facebook Live here, just because it's easy to interact and I can get your questions answered while we do have some active warnings still on the radar at this hour. Lots of questions about Marion County. I do think we're in pretty good shape. Just really want our friends at east and southeastern parts of the state to stay weather aware as we can get this line through within the next couple of hours. Our severe threat's really going to come to an end. In fact, I think this is a good time to just kind of step through the future radar to show you what we could potentially see here and kind of what's going on in the bigger picture. Check this out. This is rare air, obviously, for this part of the country for this time of year, but we are sitting at 63 degrees. We were at 66 last hour. We're essentially in the warm sector of this weather system. We had the warm front move through earlier this evening. You can see Des Moines, Iowa is at 29 degrees right now. So that's the colder air that's going to move in on the backside of this very potent cold front that's passing through, promoting these storms right now. Here's the next couple of hours on Future Track, noticing that this is still going to move out of the Indy Metro closer to east central Indiana. So from now, this is at 3:30 in the morning, so about 15 minutes from now. Still going to be impacting the eastern side of the state. Could see some lingering showers, especially from Richmond to Columbus, through about 7 a.m., through about the time that the sun comes up. And then watch what happens here. It's still going to be a very windy day, but we're already back to 45 by 8 o'clock in the morning. And then as the day goes on, by 10 a.m., we're down into the 30s, and then we've got much colder air. We're going to hang out in the 30s the rest of the day. Northern Indiana could even tap into a little bit of that moisture coming off of Lake Michigan, and that could mean some lake-enhanced snow showers for northern Indiana. This is just a few hours from now, Saturday about 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's going to be a much different picture. So we'll head back to the radar and kind of give you a breakdown of the warnings that we're still currently following. This is the active radar. It looks like they're still going to extend the warning. This is over into Ohio now at this point, but the warning up north here. Moving out of Delaware County, so it looks like Muncie, you are starting to get in that clearing zone as the strongest part of that storm has now tracked into Randolph. Again, still going to be a damaging wind threat there until 3:30. We'll wait and see if the Weather Service extends this any longer, but I think this particular line of storms is going to make its way into Ohio here very soon. Greenwood seems fine from Gary. Yep, I would say that's the case as well because it's kind of already cleared out of the Greenwood area right now. Still focusing on this warning here. For the next 15 minutes or so, we've got Johnson now into Shelby County. This really looks like near Franklin is kind of the thickest part of this, the heaviest of this line of storms as well. That's as far as the warnings go. That's about where we are right now. Bargersville got some high winds. Caleb reporting here. And just kind of looking through here. Question about Richmond. Obviously not quite to Richmond yet. I would anticipate over the next hour, places like Wayne County, certainly going to start to see this moving into your area. Will it be severe at that point? That's still up in the air. It is starting to lose a little bit of momentum, I would say, as it moves its way off to the east. As far as the structure, the line of storms is kind of falling apart, but embedded within that line, we still have some of those stronger storms that are going to be a possibility here. Kayla says the winds are picking up in Shelbyville, and yeah, Rhonda says she tried to get a quick video, only if it's safe. Probably from the inside of your home would be the best bet there. It's probably pretty hard to see a lot out there right now just because we are in the middle of the night. Newcastle, same deal. So I am getting a lot of questions from our friends over on the eastern side of the state. Newcastle probably sounds pretty rough where you are right now, but know that the storm that's moving through Henry County is under severe limit, so there's no warning on that one right there. We've had a couple of damage reports, a lot of them just some small tree branches that have come down, and they've been kind of all over the state. I want to take you back with a couple of those damage reports that we saw. Let's see here. So mainly wind damage throughout the state. We had a couple of tornado reports just across the border over in Illinois. You can see that they're along Interstate 57, but for us, it's mainly just been wind. So these are the most recent ones. This one came down just before 3 o'clock over at the campus of Ball State. We had 59-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. I believe we talked about that as well. This came down from earlier this morning when the initial line of storms came through. Some trees down throughout Rush County. Some power outages near Morristown. See if that's still the case. And then we've got some electric poles that were reported down with some trees throughout Johnson County. This is near New Whiteland. That was just before 2 o'clock this morning. Looks like a transformer fire as well in the southern part of that county. So if you do not have power and you are down across parts of Johnson County, that's probably why. Shannon asking if there have been any more tornado warnings. You know, there really has not been. It's been mostly focused on these severe thunderstorm warnings. Not to say that the potential is gone. I certainly think there's a possibility that some of these storms could rotate as they kind of move out of the state at this point. But the main concern has been the strong wind gusts embedded within the initial line of storms here, and the fact that we also have some hail reports coming in. This initially out of Bloomington, so this is the same storm that's moving through Brown County and eventually going to work its way into Shelby County and then down to Columbus, Indiana. That storm does have a history of producing pea-sized hail. That was a storm report from the IU campus just a few moments ago. So not expecting this to be a large hail event, but if you do see some pea-sized hail, that's a possibility as well. Paris asking about the Indianapolis Metro. Again, we look to be in good shape here throughout Marion County. No active warnings here. And looks like we have some more hail reports coming out of the Greenwood area, perhaps just south of that, perhaps closer to around Franklin is where the hail potential is going to exist for a little bit longer. Some really bad wind and rain reports in Franklin. That makes absolute sense. It looks like they have trimmed down this warning that was in Delaware County, so that's good news. Muncie, you are now in the clear. We're still kind of watching that small little zone in Winchester area. Still the potential there that we could get some of those strong wind gusts. I can turn on my velocity tool here, but it's so far away from the radar. It's really hard to get a good estimate of where the strongest wind gusts are. I would say kind of right here in this zone is where we're going to be watching for some stronger wind gusts. It looks like just to the east of Winchester, moving closer to Union City, is where we could see some of those 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts here shortly, which is why the warning is going to be ongoing here for the next 12 minutes or so over in Randolph County. And then as we head to the south, again, that line kind of moving through northern parts of Bartholomew County at this point. So could start to see those wind gusts really picking up over in Columbus here momentarily. Although this is kind of the zone I'm watching, just to the south of Needham, moving into southern Shelby County. Looks to be a little rough there. Ashley asking if Anderson is in the clear. Looks like the worst part has certainly moved out of Madison County. So Anderson looking like the conditions are certainly improving there. And again, as far as the tornado watch that's in effect, it's still extended to remain in effect through about 6 o'clock in the morning for areas east and then southeast of the city. So we'll see if the Storm Prediction Center keeps that watch ongoing. All right. I think everyone is up to date. Hopefully I've gotten to all of your questions here on the Facebook Live. Bargers, a question about Bargersville being in the clear. So you can kind of see, depending on where you live, where we're seeing the clearing taking place. So this is Bargersville, obviously right here. That is now on the backside of the worst part of the initial line of storms. So I would say definitely weather aware here in Shelby County down into Bartholomew County as this leading edge of the storm kind of tracks off to the east. We've got around 45 mile per hour storm movement, which is actually a little bit slower. Most of these storms are moving around 60 miles per hour, and that's a pretty quick initial line. That's why we've been so concerned about this, just because it's been an overnight storm system. It's a rare time of year to see storms setups like this, and the fact that we're not really thinking about severe weather. We're thinking about snow this time of year. So that's just something that we want to be here and keeping you updated on. Erica just saying down in Bloomington that the wind was crazy for about 15 minutes, then it moved on. Yeah, that's going to be the trend with a lot of these storms. I think they're going to be pretty quick hitters, and they kind of blow through the area, perhaps take some tree branches down, perhaps impacting power lines at times as well. And other than that, they're going to be quick to move out of your area. Asking about some tornado touchdowns that none have been reported here in central Indiana. There's been some very rocky weather and some very strong tornadoes reported for our friends in the Boot Hill, Missouri, down into northern Arkansas and throughout parts of Kentucky. And we've got our producers in the newsroom just gathering some of this video that's been coming in from these overnight storms, and some of it is just really impressive and kind of puts it into perspective how fortunate we are to be on the lesser end of this severe threat with this storm system. Some pea-sized hail reports in Columbus, Indiana now. The leading edge of that storm now moving into Columbus again. Keep in mind, you're still going to be under this warning for at least the next 8 minutes or so. Haven't gotten any word from the Weather Service if they plan to extend that particular storm. Oh, and on top of all of this, we also have that wind advisory in effect for central Indiana that's going to be with us through 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to stay breezy all through the overnight. I'm going to keep you updated here. We're going to check back in with the National Weather Service. I'm going to shut my mics off for now for this Facebook Live. And if we do get any new warnings that get issued here, of course, I'll break back on and, of course, give you that updated information. And I'm also going to be behind the scenes, so continue to ask your questions, and I will continue to answer them. I'll just do it more virtually. Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the WTHR Facebook page. We've been kind of streaming our live Doppler 13 radar through the overnight as we've had some stronger storms move through central parts of the state. We do have a couple new warnings that I want to let you know about, and this is because we still have some very strong wind gusts embedded within the initial line that's now tracking into east central Indiana. So right now, the latest from the National Weather Service, and at this point, it has the main part of the storm has cleared Rush County. So just want you to know that if you are in Rushville, you are now on the other side of these stronger storms. So that's good news. However, this storm is still moving into places like Wayne County right now. And that's where it's still continuing to pack a punch, especially over places like Cambridge City now. I want to zoom in a little bit closer and put on our warning information here. So this is the newest severe thunderstorm warning. It's going to be in effect for Wayne, Fayette, and Union counties until 4:30 in the morning. This warning here you see for Rush County is set to expire within the next few minutes, which makes sense because the leading edge of the storm has now moved out of Rush County. This is a tool that we use to see how strong the wind gusts can potentially be within some of these thunderstorms. It's our velocity tracker, and then where you see the difference, where you see these lighter reds versus a darker red, that's where the wind is really starting to pick up. So this is a tool that we use just to estimate these strong wind gusts embedded within these thunderstorms. And this is picking up on 64 to 66 mile per hour wind gusts tracking through Hagerstown, Cambridge City, and then the very northernmost extent of Fayette County, just to the north of Connorsville right now. So those leading edge strong wind gusts are essentially why the National Weather Service is continuing with these new warnings over on the eastern side of the state. Keep in mind, anything over 58 miles per hour would put this storm at severe limits. So it is moving into a little bit more of an energetic atmosphere, and that's fueling these storms to keep their act together and still continuing to bring in some of those stronger wind gusts. So we've been following along with your questions here on the WTHR Facebook page as we've been streaming our radar live and just kind of interacting with some folks, seeing where they are and what kind of storm reports they have, what questions that you might have. There's just been a couple questions as far as did we see any tornadoes here in central Indiana, and we did not. We currently only have straight line wind type storms moving through, so that's been a good thing. Are we completely out of the woods? Most of the state is, yes, but if you're over in east central Indiana, especially these counties that we're still watching where these warnings are currently active, the potential is still there that we could get some wind damage, whether it be rotating storms or whether it be straight line wind damage. You get a 66 mile per hour wind gust to move to your neighborhood, you could potentially get some trees down, branches down, and that could impact power lines. We've had a lot of reports of intermittent power outages, nothing that's been too widespread, and it does appear that most of the outages, when they do happen, they're back up and running not too long after they do go out, so that's a good thing. The storm is overall, this line of storms is moving off to the east, and it's been a pretty quick moving storm system at around 60 miles per hour, so that's a relatively quick moving situation, which is why the storms that have been moving through your area, they've been blowing through quick. You probably hear the very loud thunder and you get the heavy rainfall, and you probably can hear the wind as well, but then it quickly moves out, and that's been kind of the trend that we've been noticing with the storm reports that have been coming in. Let's go back to our reflectivity, take off that information there, and just kind of bring up the latest in our warning situation. So the time now, we're about 10 seconds away from the top of the hour. The Rush County warning will expire, so really just kind of focusing here on our friends over in especially Wayne County, where we have that potential there for the strongest of the wind gusts. So again, if you're in Cambridge City, places like Centerville, this will be in your neck of the woods here within a few minutes. Greens Forks also had some very strong wind gusts embedded within some of the heavier downpours with that storm. Fountain City, you're kind of right in between two areas of some very strong wind gusts. So just to the north of you and then just south of Fountain City, that wind is really starting to pick up. Again, radar estimates somewhere in the 60 mile per hour range, but certainly some of those storm reports that we've been picking up on, they've been higher at times, so that's certainly a possibility. Also keep in mind, this is very heavy rainfall. We've had reports out of places like Albany, Indiana, up in Delaware County, reporting over a foot of water on some of the streets there. So ongoing flooding concerns are going to be an issue, and that's also also why the Weather Service is going to continue a flood advisory for Boone, Clinton, Montgomery, Park, Putnam, Vermilion counties. So those are over on the western side of the state, but those are the areas that we're watching out for some elevated river levels, especially with all this rain that's coming through, becoming an issue for the flooding threat as well. So we're still tracking this storm down into Jackson and Jennings counties, just under severe limits, which is why I'm not paying as much attention to this part of the storm as I am over near Richmond, just because it is still below severe limits, and it's starting to weaken here as it moves to Greensburg. So we haven't forgot about you. Just know that the storm that's moving through Greensburg right now, Jennings, Jackson counties, is below severe limits. So that's good. And as I turn our lightning tracker on, not even really picking up on any lightning strikes down near Greensburg. So that's fantastic news there. I've had some questions about some rotating storms to the overnight. I just really don't see much of that on our active radar right now, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. And then as we go through the next few hours, I really think this is going to start to wrap up here, especially as we get closer to around 4:30. That's when this active warning is set to expire. And we do keep in mind, I can turn this on as well. We do have a tornado watch that's going to be in effect through 6 a.m. But once this storm rolls through, I really think that the Weather Service will consider to expiring that earlier. So the pink highlight is going to be your active tornado watch. That's again going to be through 6 a.m. for most of our counties in central and east central, southeastern Indiana as well. But as you can see, as far as where the rain and the storms are currently located, there's a lot of counties that are in the clear of the strongest part of this storm. So continuing to watch this here. What time do we have now? We're at 4:02, so your Rush County warning was allowed to expire. And currently just kind of watching this storm cluster that's moving through Wayne County. I did have a request to see if we could put this into motion. Of course we can. Let me shut that off so it's easier to see. I'll also shut the lightning strikes off because that's really not much of an issue at this point. There's only a few out there. This is going to be your time lapse over the past 15 minutes. And you can see the general storm motion of this moving essentially due east. So it does look like they've trimmed a part of this warning. So if you're in very north and northwestern parts of Wayne County, this has been kind of trimmed for your area. So closer to Hagerstown, kind of cutting that off, focusing on the primary part of this storm where the strongest of the wind gusts are located. And again, that's, let me take this lapse off so you can see where the storm is actively. Again, as we get a little bit closer here, street level mapping, you got really the stretch here between Cambridge City, Centerville, up to Greens Fork, Webster, just to the north and the northwest of Richmond still. That's where the strongest of these wind gusts are. Again, shutting off the lightning strikes and turning on my velocity. So this is going to be where we have the strongest of the wind gusts, where these two colors kind of come together in between Cambridge City and Centerville. So that's going to be where we have that potential there for 60 to potentially 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts out there right now, and that's again going to be the primary threat. So the strongest part of this storm, again, moving through Wayne County. We still got an extension down the line into Fayette County, so Connorsville probably starting to see the wind gusts picking up there momentarily. Going to be moving toward Liberty and eventually into Union County. I can actually put a tracker on this. It's again moving pretty fast. 60 miles per hour, so that's a pretty quick storm, especially for this time of year as these kind of march through the state. There is your storm tracker. So we've got places like Richmond. This is again moving very close to you right now. You're about 3 minutes out there. New Paris. Now we're getting to parts of Ohio, about 7 minutes. And then Liberty, we mentioned, you've got about 9 minutes until this initial line of storms move in. And that's what's going to bring in the highest risk for some damaging wind gusts. We've had some reports of some small hail. Nothing major outside of that, though, so that's been a good thing, mainly just focusing on some strong wind gusts, and definitely some limbs have been reported down. We've had some damage reports through the central part of the state during the overnight. Report here from Heather from Winchester saying the winds are kind of off and on. Certainly that makes sense because you've had several rounds of storms that have kind of moved through that area. That definitely does make sense. Let me take this off here and kind of give you a bigger picture. So again, one active warning. I thought we were going to get out of here this evening with no more warnings getting issued, but this This line right here really kind of got its act together again and strengthened a bit, and those strong wind gusts, especially reported on radar, is why the Weather Service went ahead and put out this one last warning, the only active warning here in central Indiana as of, here we go, at 4:06 in the morning. This has been a long night. We've actually been on the better edge of this. Places in Kentucky, we just continue to get some storm damage and video from parts of Kentucky down into southern Missouri, Arkansas, where they had some very strong, destructive tornadoes hit earlier in the evening. We're still gathering a lot of that, and we will have that on the morning show starting at 6 o'clock. At that point, our severe threat will come to an end. Our tornado watch will have expired at that point. So we will see some, I don't want to say improving conditions, not severe conditions at 6 o'clock in the morning, but that's when we'll start to see that much colder air moving in on the backside of this storm system. It's a very odd setup, and it's rare for this time of year, which you probably know, which is why we don't typically get severe weather this time of year. But look at the bigger picture. I'll put this into motion over the past 6 hours. You can see that we have been sitting on the warm side of this weather system, and not too far to our north, we've got snow falling, and we've got winter storm advisories posted for places like Wisconsin, up closer to Minneapolis. It's been a snow event there. So this is a very widespread, impactful system, but we were kind of right in between where the most severe storms hit and then where that cold air is currently situated. We were at 66 degrees last hour. We're slowly starting to see that slight cool down taking place, but Louisville's still at 68 degrees right now. We're at 62, so you can still see we are in the warm sector of this weather system as the cold front is still pushing through. There's a little bit of a delay, a little bit of a lag in between when the actual cold front comes through and when we see the colder air arriving. But I believe already by about 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be back into the 30s. In fact, here's the latest on our storm tracker. Future Track shows that this is still going to exit the state between now and about 6 a.m. Still could see some lingering scattered showers, perhaps an isolated storm or two south of I-70 as we get into the 7 o'clock hour as the sun comes up. But then once all that rain moves out, check this out, already by 8 a.m., we've got some 30s on the future map here from Terre Haute to Greencastle, and then that much colder air takes over for everybody as we get into the afternoon. This is 10 o'clock on your future radar, 39 degrees in Indy. Considering the fact that it's 62 right now, it's going to feel like a completely different air mass. And then we've also got that threat of some lake-enhanced snow showers in northern Indiana as the day goes on. So quite the weather system. We'll go from the middle of summer, it seems like, all the way back into some more winter-like conditions later today. I want to take you back to live Doppler 13 radar and kind of wrap this up. We are still at 4:08 in the morning. This ongoing warning is set to expire at 4:30. Over in Wayne County, and for Fayette, Union County is also included in this warning because of some strong wind gusts. Let's go back to our analysis here. So now this is now making its way into Richmond. So a couple counties that are now in the clear. Henry County, you're in good shape. Rushville, I know you had some of the very active weather just a few moments ago, but that is now cleared out of Rush County, so that's good news. Franklin, Hagerstown, Cambridge City, you're now clear of this. Connorsville, I expect this to really start rumbling here. If you haven't already started to hear the thunder and the heavy rain, it is certainly in the Connorsville area now. Waterloo up to Richmond, and then Fountain City, starting to see some of the stronger wind gusts developing along the leading edge of that storm system. You can see this extends all the way into northern Ohio, down closer to Louisville, and we still have active tornado warnings across parts of Kentucky, and my radar doesn't go this far down, but down into Nashville, Tennessee. Several tornado warnings there. Let me see if I can flip and put the national radar on here. So these are some major storms moving through central Tennessee right now. We got 3 active tornado warnings down in Nashville and surrounding that area. Lots of severe thunderstorm warnings embedded within that. So you can, I'm just kind of showing you this to put into perspective how widespread this storm system has been and how we've really gotten pretty lucky as compared to what we could have gotten if we were just a little bit farther south. So again, here locally, just to reiterate why we are on Facebook Live and why we have been with you starting just before 11 o'clock yesterday evening. Angela was on, and now we're just kind of on the tail edge, very back end of the storm system. This very potent cold front that's moving through. Started the day off in a level 3 of 5 for our risk category from the Storm Prediction Center, which especially this time of year is just something you don't see very often. So we've been preparing you pretty much all day long. The fact that it's hitting also 4 o'clock in the morning. We're talking about severe weather. A lot of folks don't necessarily get up this early in the morning or have a way to receive those alerts. So we are glad that you're joining us here, getting the latest weather information as we go through the morning. Haley asking if we could check Connersville, watching from Fayette into Union counties. Yeah, Connersville, you are still included in the warning. Still could see very strong wind gusts, potentially some isolated power outages in Fayette County into Union County within the next 30 minutes. This is going to be at least the next 20-30 minutes, something that you need to continue to watch, and we're going to stay with you until this warning is allowed to expire. Shannon said winds are starting to pick up in Richmond right now. Yep, keeping you updated in the Richmond area as well. All of my family is in Wayne County. Grew up in Cambridge City, very familiar with that zone. Richmond was kind of the closest biggest city that we would go to, so I'm very familiar with the Wayne County zone. And it's kind of all that's left with this storm system, so that's a good thing. And as far as the damage reports that we've had so far during the course of this event here in central Indiana, they've all been wind damage reports. A lot of questions about, well, did we see anything that actually rotated here? Fortunately, we didn't, which is good. We will see some assessment done on some of those storm damage reports, especially if there's any major damage that needs to be looked at, just to see if it was indeed straight line winds or if it was caused by some rotating storms. But so far, this has been a straight line wind event along this cold front that's been coming through. The Weather Service over in Ohio, we've got a couple of offices that service this part of the country down in Wilmington, Ohio. That's where they pull these warnings from locally. So that has now been extended for our friends over in west central Ohio. So Greenville, Ohio getting in on that. And that just kind of goes to show you that this is all starting to exit east central Indiana. So we are really on the very tail end of any severe weather that the Indianapolis viewing area would be impacted by as this races off to the east at around 60 miles per hour. Pretty quick line of storms moving through. A lot of folks just kind of asking if it's safe to go to bed. Yes, if you are not included in this orange box, you are in the clear. Muncie, Anderson, now Newcastle, Greenfield, Rushville, Shelbyville, Greensburg, you're on the very back edge of this at this point. So if you're really not located down into Fayette County, Union County, Wayne County, this is all wrapping up for you. We're again going to stick with you here at least until the Weather Service expires. This last little warning here over in east central Indiana, and then we'll be in a good shape. The numbers have really dwindled. I think when we started this Facebook Live, we had nearly 600 to 700 people on here, so that's a good thing. Seeing those numbers go down and seeing fewer and fewer people be impacted by these strong storms. So we did get an update. It looks like they just cut off a portion of this warning just to encompass where the strongest part of this is. So places like Cambridge City, you've now been dropped from that severe thunderstorm warning. You are now in the clear there. Connersville, you are in good shape as well. Hagerstown, I should say, and then Connersville still kind of on the back edge of this. You can definitely tell where this is tracking. So Brandsville, Liberty, strong wind gusts headed your way. I wonder if I could pull up some of these wind gust reports. Kind of getting toward the edge of the radar, which makes it difficult to get an accurate measurement. But this storm certainly has a history of 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts embedded within it, which we talk about wind gusts, and what that actually means for you is we get to anything over 58 miles per hour. Yes, that would put that at severe limits or the severe parameters for the warning to get issued. But as far as an impact goes, once the winds start to get to that point, especially with these heavy rains and potential of some flooding conditions, the ground's very saturated and you get a strong wind gust over 58 miles per hour or so. And that's quickly going to bring down some trees eventually. Some limbs could be embedded within that, and that could lead to some isolated power outages and things like that, which is why the impacts of those damaging wind gusts are something that we also have to focus on not just the winds itself, because it's kind of hard to relate to how that's going to impact your life. You say there's a chance of isolated power outages, and we know how to prepare for that a little bit better, making sure our cell phones are charged, we have flashlights ready to go, perhaps even candles if your power is out. And we have been periodically checking the local power companies' websites, and there really haven't been a substantial amount of outages. And a lot of them, as soon as they go out, they've been restored pretty quickly. So if you are currently without power, just know that the response times have been looking pretty impressive just based off of some of the reports that we've seen. So we'll have some friends watching us from the Liberty area right now, which is why I want to continue to leave this up as the new radar scans are starting to come in. And it does look like just south of Connorsville, this is potentially bowing out a little bit. Whenever you see the line of storms kind of moving, I'll put this tool on here, kind of going more in this direction as compared to a straight line. Sometimes we can get some very strong winds that push out ahead of that, leading to that increased damage. That makes sense that the warning is still covering this zone where those stronger winds could be just to the east of Connorsville. So through southern Fayette County as well. And as you can see, everyone else looks pretty good. Jenny's saying that Duke, her power provider, lost power but got it restored very quickly, which is very good news to hear. And some more good news, the Weather Service has actually canceled a portion of the tornado watch. So if you are in Bartholomew, Boone, Brown, Clay, Clinton, Davies, Green, Hendricks, Jackson, Johnson, Knox, Lawrence, Marion, Martin, Monroe, Montgomery, this is pretty much all the counties here in central Indiana I'm reading off, that was allowed to expire. So let me pull that up so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the tornado watch that I was talking about there. Weather Service here in Indianapolis expiring that early. So a lot of these counties right in this zone here have been dropped from the tornado watch, which is a good thing. And I really do anticipate all of those watches supposed to run until 6 a.m. even where these storms are currently active. There's the update. A lot of those counties dropped. I still anticipate that being allowed to expire a little bit earlier. As soon as this last little bit of line of storms moves through, then I really do think this is all going to kind of clear up for the rest of us for the evening. I'll just leave that tornado watch on for now. Just going back through some of the storm reports from earlier this evening, some preliminary reports throughout the country of around 30 tornado reports, most of them in northeast Arkansas, some of them in portions of western Tennessee, lots in central Kentucky, a couple in central Illinois for your tornado reports. We do know that there was a Amazon facility, I believe it was in Arkansas, that was completely demolished. A roof collapsed. Looks like Edwardsville, Illinois. Oh, that was in Illinois. Just kind of reading through these in real time here, seeing some of the reports that have been coming in through the overnight. And a lot of them happened much earlier, several hours ago. But as you know, we just talked, there's still several ongoing active tornado warnings down south of us in Kentucky and parts of Tennessee. Again, most of our reports here in central Indiana have been wind-driven reports. Lots of trees down, some branches down, but really, we got on the lucky side of the storm system. Looks like Decatur and Rush counties still going to be included in that tornado watch at least through 6 a.m. Maybe, I really think that they might expire that early. So this leading edge here kind of moving out of Fountain City as we speak. Richmond still getting impacted pretty heavily at this hour. Some strong wind gusts still reported there, probably very active as far as the heavy rain. Liberty, you're about to get in on some of the very strong wind gusts as well. Again, we're talking in excess of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, but this is quickly going to move through. The whole storm system is tracking off to the east at around 60 miles per hour. So Connorsville looks like you're already kind of on the back edge of the strongest of this line. Good news for our friends down in Connorsville. Southern Fayette County, still some heavy rain as we speak, and potentially again some of those stronger wind gusts. And I do want to give a shout out to everyone kind of working behind the scenes here at WTHR. It's been a long overnight. My producer Jennifer been here since noon, sticking around, helping us behind the scenes, making sure that we are on air with our mics on. Everyone in the control room, whole team kind of working together to keep you updated on these storms during the overnight. Still some questions about some rotation. That's not been the case. So none of these storms rotating. Just a heads up there. So, but keep in mind, we don't need the storms to rotate to potentially cause some wind gust damage. So you get a 60, 70 mile per hour wind gust out of the leading edge of one of these storms, and that could potentially do as much damage as a small end EF0, EF1 tornado could do. So it's been more so a straight line wind event. Especially as these storms track so fast through the state, quickly bring some branches down and things like that. Quickly, the power could go out, but again, as we've been mentioning, that's been restored pretty quickly, it seems like, through most of the state. So Liberty, Brownsville, getting in on some of the heaviest of this right now, and then it should start to exit the state. This is kind of the last little bit that we're going to be dealing with for the next few minutes. Right now, we're at 423. As this storm kind of works its way off to the east, it's going to become less of an issue. And one quick thing I can do is put a tracker on the back edge and show you the clearing times for this. So looks like Richmond, this is kind of moving out now as we speak. Places like Brownsville, you've got about 4 more minutes of those strong wind gusts before this exits. Again, these are the times that the storm's going to move out. So Liberty, you've got about 8 more minutes of some strong wind gusts before the leading edge of that storm system exits out of your area. Connorsville, again, you're starting to see the clearing taking place as we speak, and then a lot of these cities starting to move into Ohio as well. So give it less than 10 minutes and we really should see this event wrapping up for us. I'll take that off the map. Looks like we've got some more warnings developing down in Ohio, just to the south of Cincinnati. Yeah, lots of warnings still ongoing south of us. This is a major storm system. We've got tornado watches all the way down into Louisiana. And then north of us, we've got winter storm warnings. Just a bizarre weather system. Haley asking why Rush and Greensburg still in the tornado watch. Probably just to make sure everyone is covered because the storms were still a little bit so teetering the county when they expired, they being the National Weather Service, when the rest of the tornado watch was expired. There was still some stormy activity in the vicinity of Decatur and Rush County, so that's probably why they still left those 2 counties in the watch zone, just to cover all their bases, make sure everyone is still at least staying weather aware at this point to the middle of the night. Better safe than sorry, but you can visually see where the storms are located, and they have certainly cleared out of Rushville and Greensburg. So if you were in either one of those counties, I would say you are safe to head to bed and call it a night there. Or maybe you're just up early this morning, 4:25 a.m. Yeah, a lot of folks just kind of checking in with us and saying they're out watching the coverage, and just something that you don't hear. I know that's kind of been the conversation through the course of the day. It's like, are we really going to see this strong storm system at this time of year? And if you look back historically, yes, it's quite rare, but it's not out of the question. We've had reports of tornadoes every month of the year here in central Indiana. So it's certainly not something that is impossible. It's certainly something that happens from time to time, but air like this is rare, especially for this time of year. As you know, we look back at some historical data. One of the parameters that we look at in the atmosphere is the dew point temperature. How much moisture is there, and how could that potentially impact storm development as this frontal system comes through? And whenever you're storm chasing, you want to look at a dew point temperature of anything over 55 degrees, and that's going to be just enough energy that's going to fuel storm development. And we had dew point temperatures in the low 60s, and Sean Asper is doing some data research just to see how many times this actually happened, and less than 5 times has Indianapolis reported a dew point temperature of 62 degrees or more this time of year. So it's very rare air, does not happen very often, but when it does, of course, we are here with you and just keeping you updated with these new warnings that have been coming down. And I believe we saw our first warning just after 10 o'clock last night. So this has been an ongoing kind of long, tenured event. Multiple rounds of crews here covering it for you through the overnight. The good news is there's nothing new. We are kind of wrapping up this event here, but again, just wanted to stay with you at least for the next 2 to 3 minutes before I call it a day and this last warning is allowed to expire. Again, we're still going to be dealing with some of those strong wind gusts through the course of the overnight and for most of the day tomorrow, and just knowing that we're going to see a major transition from this very tropical air mass that we have right now. This is kind of a look at where the warm sector is, 62 in Indy still, 47 though in St. Louis, and we're at 30 degrees in Des Moines, Iowa. So that's going to be our kind of trend that we're headed toward over the next few hours here. In fact, this is Future Track, the latest. This is a high resolution weather model that takes new storms into consideration, and it gives us new data each and every hour. And it's pretty on point. You can see where it still has storms over in Richmond now. But between now and about 7 a.m., still a stray shower or two, perhaps an isolated storm south of I-70 through the rest of your morning. But notice how quickly this is all going to change. We'll go from the 60s. This is 48 degrees at around 8 a.m. here in Indy. And then most of the day, we're going to be in the 30s. So back to winter, kind of back to reality. Even a few of those lake-enhanced snow showers around lunchtime in northern Indiana. And then in the 30s for the rest of the day on Saturday. Going to be quite the transition, especially if you're kind of used to these warmer temps at this point. We'll go back to the radar here and get you a few more updates as we start to see this storm system wrap up. I'll put this into motion here over the past 15 minutes and just kind of play out live Doppler 13 for you. As you can see, that tornado watch was allowed to expire just a few moments ago for most of central Indiana. Still kind of dealing with some of these stronger wind gusts that have been moving through Wayne County, Fayette County, Union County, but the warnings are now getting extended into Ohio. So this is going to be tracking out of the Indianapolis viewing area very shortly. And then our severe threats really going to wrap up, which is good news. We can all kind of go to bed and get some rest and get ready for our weekend. Much colder weekend. Yeah, lots of questions kind of coming in from the national news as far as these storms that hit places in Kentucky and Illinois. It is still being monitored. It's still some of the video, especially if you were on Twitter and you just kind of look up Arkansas weather, Illinois, Kentucky. Some of the videos that are coming out of some of these cities impacted have been kind of focused on our local weather. So I haven't done a ton of research on what those reports have been and what's been confirmed so far. But some of the images out of there certainly difficult to see and read some of those reports. But we will hopefully learn some more information for our friends in Kentucky here soon. All right, time now is right here at 4:30 in the morning, and as far as we can see, the Weather Service has not planned on doing any more warnings or any more extensions for the storms that are here in central Indiana. So as of, again, 4:31 in the morning, we're going to wrap up, at least I'm going to wrap up this Facebook Live on my end as far as the broadcasting side of it. If you still continue to have questions or just want to chat about potentially some of the things that you're seeing across the country weather-wise, feel free to leave those in the comment section. Otherwise, I appreciate everyone joining us this evening, and I hope you were able to stay safe.